Okay. Oh, shit.
That's okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another session of Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations with Chaos Counseling. Let's figure this shit out.
Oh yeah, cross-examining Armstrong.
Getting him out of our lives.
We know it's never gonna happen, though.
No,
It's never
he's
gonna
forever
happen.
in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I love him.
I mean, even in the very first game, we were like, we're so excited for Armstrong.
And now we're here and everyone's like, we're not as excited. I'm like, yay!
This piece of evidence contradicts with testimony we have heard, Your Honor.
The crime photo?
Yes, this photo clearly shows something that theoretically should not exist.
What on earth do you mean by that, Mr. Wright?
Should not exist. Huh. Sounds like you're describing yourself, Trite.
Yes, I
Burn!
desire for that sweet release from existence.
Do not leave me, monsieur.
I really desire that sweet release from existence.
Now then, if the defense would please clarify its statement. What is the something that should not exist in this photo?
I think it's pretty obvious that this is what should not be in the picture.
The vase? What possible connection does that have with the witness's testimony?
Your Honor, I'm telling you that there should not have been no vase on this table. Because it very clearly contradicts with this piece of evidence. Where are you?
Where'd you go?
Nope, wrong button.
There you go, good boy.
Oh, okay, never mind.
There's one thing that was clearly demonstrated by yesterday's testimony. Mr. Kudo broke the vase that was on the table where he was sitting. And yet, as the court can see, there is an unbroken vase on the table next to the victim. Why? Because Mr. Kudo was not, in fact, sitting at the table next to the victim at all.
Don't be an idiot, Trite. That's impossible. The seat's the only one Kudo could have seen the victim's reflection from.
Exactly.
Oh.
There's only one conclusion we can draw from this contradiction. There was no mirror in Tribulations that day. Your testimony, Mr. Armstrong, is an elaborate lie.
Mon Dieu!
Oh my gosh, my legs. Oh.
Here, let me offer mine. Lick.
Don't try to confuse the court, Trite.
Aw.
Obviously, the witness, I almost said witness,
You're welcome.
cleaned up the vase while the police were taking their time getting to the crime scene.
Unfortunately, Mr. Godot, that doesn't quite work for me. Mr. Armstrong already testified to the contrary. In his own words, I did not touch anything else except the mirror.
Ugh.
Oh, go. Well, witness, what do you have to say for yourself? As I quickly plug in my phone to charge. You're
That
not
wasn't
so
right.
mean.
There was no mirror in the restaurant that day.
In light of this revelation, we return back to the original problem. Why did the victim have an earpiece in an ear in which he couldn't hear?
You only get one shot in life. There's no turning back. If you want to claim that mirror wasn't there, Trite, then this problem is all yours. How do you explain what the old man saw?
If I can answer this, then I'll be that much closer to the truth. I can feel it.
Are you gonna be okay? Can you really solve this contradiction, Nick?
There's more than just this one contradiction, Maya.
What do you mean? I'm confuzzled.
Remember what Maggie told us?
No.
There was another man at the victim's table. And there was a sample CD on the victim's table. It all flies in the face of Mr. Kudo's
Who does
testimony.
Glen Elk look like, Kendall?
Can you give me a hint?
Apollo Justice's game.
Holy freak!
I know, what the shit? I just realized that. I'm like, wait a second. Oh, and then when they also, Nick was inspired by mixing you up. Okay, continue. Sorry, I just had this moment.
And I think I know the reason why nothing in this case is adding up.
Well, Mr. Wright, let's hear your answer.
Yes, Your Honor. The reason behind all the contradiction in Mr. Kudo's testimony is simple.
Made a mistake. Your doctor was made a mistake. The victim was a phony.
I wonder. No shit, Sherlock.
The case is riddled with contradictions. Yet there is one very simple answer that clears them all up.
And what is that?
The incident Mr. Kudo witnessed and the incident the victim experienced were two completely different events.
What?
Yes, the victim that Mr. Kudo saw wasn't Mr. Glenn Elg at all. It was an imposter, a phony pretending to be Mr. Elg. Obviously, unlike the victim, there was nothing wrong with the imposter's left eardrum. That's how he ended up wearing the earpiece in his left ear by mistake.
Oh no. Order in the court. Settle down or I'll clear the courtroom.
Quiet, Gramps. Why don't you clear out of here, huh?
What the shit, dude? What did you say?
Right? Are you saying that what Mr. Kudo saw was a setup?
Yes. Someone pretended to be Glenn Elg and acted out the whole coffee poisoning. All for the express purpose of creating a witness out of one Mr. Victor Kudo.
Get real, Trite. Why would anyone want to do that?
Isn't it obvious? The thing Mr. Kudo was most insistent about in his testimony was...
The servant girl brought him a Javicino. But she put something in it. That's the servant girl right there in the defendant's chair. I remember her well. It's so hard to believe, but...
There was one, and only one reason to show Mr. Kudo this fake poisoning. To show Maggie Bird in the act of poisoning the coffee.
Are you insinuating that the waitress in the old man's story was a fake as well? It's true that there were no other customers in the restaurant at the time, but... It's also true that the chef was there! He would have noticed that what was happening.
That's right. Well, witness, if your restaurant really was the scene of such theatrics, you would have known about it, correct? Oh la la, this is more difficult for me.
No, it's quite simple. All you have to do is testify. You're under oath, after all. Was there, in fact, a phony at 3 p.m. that day? The defense demands that Mr. Armstrong tell us the whole truth about what happened.
The defense's request for additional testimony is accepted. You will accurately explain in detail the events in the restaurant that day. Oui. I do not want to.
In the restaurant.
He's cracking.
La victim, Monsieur Elk, he came to my restaurant alone. I remember the old man arrived not long after him. There were no other customers. When he got very won the lottery, Elk became very excited. It was approximately 5 minutes later that the poisoning incident occurred. No, there was no time for the phony to do the acting. Just so we're clear, there was no mirror in the restaurant after all. Si vous demandez pardon, forgive me, Your Honor. I lied because I wanted this mess to be cleared up quickly. What you have just done is commit perjury, Mr. Armstrong. I will decide how to punish you later.
Ooh.
Oui.
No. No!
For now, we will hear your cross-examination, Mr. Wright.
You took that perjury charge a bit too well. I'm guessing he'll be in more serious trouble after this cross-examination.
In the restaurant.
Restaurant! By old man, you mean Victor Kudo, correct?
Oui, he comes often for my special coffee.
I drank your coffee once, Mr. Armstrong. It's special, I'll give you that. It's worth a sip just for the experience.
You say that about me, you know?
Ooh.
pours it like on his freaking like face, just like end it now.
Oh, you make me so happy, monsieur. You are most welcome anytime.
I said it was worth one sip and nothing more.
So old Mr. Kudo arrived at the restaurant around the same time as the victim. Maybe we should ask about his arrival in more detail.
Don't ask anything. How many minutes after? What time was it?
Out of curiosity, about what time was it when Mr. Kudo arrived?
Oh no, I cannot remember, monsieur. I believe we were told by a witness yesterday.
The crime was reported at 2:25 p.m. by a kind of scary old man, sir.
Does that perhaps jog your memory, witness? The incident happened about 20 minutes after he arrived, so the victim must have arrived between 2 p.m. and 2:10 p.m., no?
Just after 2, huh?
Thank you for your help in jogging my memory, monsieur. You are wonderful. I can't sit here all the time and do nothing now, can I? Help. Help. The time of day will be added to the witness's testimony. Oui, monsieur judge. Everything I do it for you. Merci bien. That's French, isn't it? Kill me.
I'm glad at least one person is in a good mood.
Don't lie for me! He's even humming a song to himself.
Do-do-do-do-do-do.
He's humming the death march.
I think I remember what it is.
Yeah!
I'm afraid I finally got you, Mr. Armstrong.
¿Qué? What do you mean?
At the time in
You
question,
already had me.
at the time in question, the victim was listening to the radio with his earpiece. The show he was listening to was Millionaire Radio. Each week, they announced the winning numbers of $500,000 lottery ticket.
Oui, that must be la Shormon Elk was listening to. Oh, mon is monsieur.
Yeah.
I get it now. I can't see any problem with this testimony, Mr. Wright.
I wonder.
Eh?
You said the victim arrived at your restaurant after 2 p.m., correct?
Oui, I am sure of it. I remember it perfectly now. I know it was that time because I had just finished serving the lunch menu.
Get to the point, Trite, if you have one.
I have several in my hair. That show is broadcast. Oh no.
And one in your pants.
That show is broadcast live at 1:30 p.m.
Oh, monsieur is ignoring me.
And it claims to be the most thrilling 10 minutes of your life.
It's on the air at 1:30?
Now, supposedly, the victim made some noise when it was announced that he had won. And yet, I don't believe his cry of joy could have occurred after 2 p.m. Because the show had already finished more than 30 minutes earlier by that point in time. This victim we've been told about has done nothing but the impossible. Listening to the radio with a ruptured eardrum, catching a show that was already over, there's only one conclusion you can draw from these facts. This victim was an imposter, acting out the poisoning 30 minutes after the real murder.
Muggers.
Yes, there were 2 Glen Elgs in Thrabian that day. The real Glen Elg, now dead, having been poisoned by the real killer. And the phony Glen Elg acting out the events for Mr. Kudo to witness.
It certainly seems that way. I mean, if that wasn't the case, how could you explain the time discrepancy?
Quite a performance, Trite. You were almost on a roll. But sadly, you lack the rock-hard foundation of rhythm to build your song.
Rock hard. Monsieur.
Help me.
What is this, Music Theory 101?
No, it's Armstrong Theory 101.
Let's recap. According to your imaginative theory, it's now just after 2 p.m. The phony Elg is performing a play for the benefit of Mr. Kudo. How do you explain, then, where the real Glen Elg is?
I don't believe I have to spell this out to the court. However, at the time, the real Glen Elg was already dead.
That's certainly the obvious conclusion.
Thank you, Trite. That's exactly what I was hoping you would say.
What?
Now, I presume you could prove this theory of yours? Can you explain where the missing corpse went to?
The missing corpse?
According to the old man's testimony, there was only one other customer there. If that customer was the phony Glen Elg, then where did the killer hide the body of the real victim?
Yeah.
I guess my contradiction wasn't that surprising.
The prosecution has a valid point, Mr. Wright. If your theory is to stand up to examination by the court, you must provide us with proof by answering the prosecution's question. Where did the killer hide the body?
Yes, Your Honor.
No conjecture, Trite. Let's hear some facts for once. Show the court a piece of evidence that proves where the body was hidden.
Evidence?
What's with the intense pressure in here all of a sudden? Besides the crap we're getting from Armstrong.
I thought I had him with that contradiction. But he's turned it all around and backed me into a corner instead.
Well, Mr. Wright, the court will now hear the defense's theory and evidence. First, where was the body of the real Mr. Elg concealed?
It would have been too dangerous to take the body outside. Obviously, the body must have been hidden somewhere inside Tribulations.
Interesting. But where could a body have been hidden inside a restaurant? Perhaps you would care to show the court on these plans, Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor. The exact location where the body of Tribulations is... The body was hidden here.
I see.
Nice
Supposition.
supposition. But the real question is, can you back it up? Where's the evidence that proves the body was hidden in that location?
Sorry, my brain was just like, oh, the evidence is totally the lunch special. They fed you the body.
Oh!
Why else would
jeez.
it be so nasty?
Oh.
Mr. Armstrong, do you recognize this bottle?
No. I have never seen that ugly bottle before in my life. I only use the very best bottles, monsieur. The highest quality, only for me. Where was that bottle found, Mr. Wright?
Interestingly enough, Your Honor, it was found in the kitchen of Tribulations.
Eh? Okay? But I only ever use these bottles for my aromatherapy oils. I am confusion.
But this bottle doesn't contain aromatherapy oil, Mr. Armstrong. No, it contains a medication.
What kind of medication?
I'm sure everyone remembers, don't they? That Mr. Elg visited an
laryngological
clinic and was given medication that day.
Can't be serious.
The defense had the contents of the bottle analyzed, and I have the lab results here. The contents of the bottle match the prescription that was given to Mr. Elg. Glen Elg's murderer hid the body in a restaurant kitchen, at which time this bottle fell out of the victim's pocket. Mr. Armstrong, when the incident occurred, didn't he say you were in the kitchen? In the kitchen!
Mon Dieu!
Yes, you know what I'm about to say. It was you who hid the victim's body. You did a fine job pretending to defend my client, Maggie Bird. However, you were setting her up to take the fall behind the poor girl's back.
Rubble.
Rubble. Order. This is an extraordinary development. Witness, did you murder Mr. Glenn Elg? Never! I could never not do such an horrible thing. His body was too nice.
No!
Oh dear. Mr. Godot?
The bitterness. Every time I get lied to, I always down a mug of coffee. That's one of my rules.
That's a bad rule.
Do you have the slightest idea how many cups you've had by
I
now?
think he's had 7 at this point.
Then I like to do the same to the person who lied to me. I like to take them down with my empty cup. Listen up, chef. How about a brand new flavor in your ear? My H-deficit friend?
Deficient.
Deficient?
Seafood demande pardon. Please, you must hear me out. It is a trap. Listen to me. Por favor. Yo hablo español, Mr. Armstrong, and por favor is Spanish.
I'm only going to ask you once. Did you do it?
None. Absolutely none.
Let's hear it. You've got one shot. Right, Gramps?
Tip tap up here, but okay. Witness, the court will permit you the chance to make one final statement.
Tip tap, tip tap.
Tip tap, tip tap. If you lie under oath again, Mr. Godot's coffee mug awaits you. As does my gavel. Oui, it is clear.
What do they always say in the movies? I've got a bad feeling about this.
Mr. Wright, what will be your punishment? I will not ask. Very well. Begin your final testimony, Mr. Armstrong.
And that's an episode.
We will see you guys next time.
Next time.